The U.S. State Department is telling Americans in Mexico to shelter in place as law enforcement tries to regain control of cities that have fallen into chaos in the hands of the Mexican cartels. This is after the Mexican military took out a notorious cartel kingpin with U.S. support. And we're learning a little bit more about our role in all of that. Not a lot of detail, but we had one. The carnage, cars torched, roads blocked, banks and local businesses set on fire as those cartels are now fighting for power. It's like everybody else is in the middle of a gang war right now. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-host, Emily Campagno, and also joining us, Tomi Lahren, co-host of The Big Weekend Show and host of Tomi Lahren is Fearless on Outkick. Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business. And Griff Jenkins is with us, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Mexico's most wanted drug lord, known as El Mencho, was killed in a U.S.-backed military raid. He founded a vast criminal network which has the highest cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine trafficking capacity in Mexico. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt applauded the move, and here's what she wrote. El Mencho was a top target for the Mexican and U.S. government as one of the top traffickers of fentanyl. President Trump has been very clear the U.S. will ensure narco-terrorists sending deadly drugs to our homeland are forced to face the wrath of justice they have long deserved. Former Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb joined me last hour on the Faulkner Focus.
This is exactly what they're doing in Puerto Vallarta. What they are doing is burning buses, lighting gas stations on fire, because they want to create terror for those who struck a nerve. This will create compression amongst those other cartels. We may see more violence stem from this, but what we're seeing right now is their capability for violence, and this should awake Americans up. This is why it's so important to close our borders.
The borders are essentially closed, and the drugs flowing across, Griff, have dwindled to nearly zero, thank goodness. Not quite there, but certainly the human trafficking. What is there for people on the left to catch on to at this point?
So this is a big deal, Harris, and it couldn't be a more dangerous time to be in Mexico because of what Sheriff Lamb was talking about. So a power vacuum was now created. El Mencho was the top trafficker of cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl coming across in the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Now, remember, last summer, El Mayo, who was the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, was taken. The U.S. captured him. It led to a spike in 400% increase in homicides in Mexico. Now we're going to see it even more so because Jalisco New Generation is the dominant cartel. And they're going to start retaliating now against Mexican officials because of this. And don't forget, for 4 years under the Biden administration, they lined their pockets with money. That's why you see these stunning videos of the cartel leaders in armored vehicles that rival U.S. military firepower. They're going to retaliate against the officials, but then they're going to fight the rival factions that are trying to fill El Mencho. And so it's really a lot of unanswered questions of really where and how they're going to retaliate against Mexican officials, and then the war that's going to go on with the cartel, which puts Americans stuck in Mexico at a very, very high risk.
Yeah, the list last night, Tomi, that some of us put out on social media of all the areas that were basically in lockdown, shelter in place, was pretty long. It wasn't just Jalisco and Puerto Vallarta and some of the other areas where we know Americans go, but it was a lot of different states within that country.
I think Americans need to understand something that doesn't feel comfortable, but anytime you as an American travel to Mexico, there is a limited amount of things that the American government can do for you there. Yes, they've put out the warnings. They said shelter in place. They can help you a little bit with the embassy. But when you decide to travel to Mexico, a lot of people think you go to a resort, you're going to be safe, nothing happens there. Well, I think they're finding out the hard way that that's not necessarily true. In 2017, a friend of mine from California was stabbed to death in Playa del Carmen. And that was just walking from bar to bar in a resort area. So I've been sounding the alarm on this for almost 10 years now, saying, if you're an American going to Mexico, have a great time, but understand the risks. And to the point about President Trump and his message, we saw it in the first administration, his message to Mexico was the threat of tariffs if the Mexican military doesn't do their part to secure the border. And then the Mexican military stepped up. Now we flash forward to administration 2.0. President Trump says, I'm not going to tolerate not only the human trafficking, but the drug trafficking. And now the Mexican military, once again, stepping up to do their part to secure their own country. That, in my opinion, is a direct response to President Trump and how tough he's been on this issue.
Talk to me about tariffs, because you knew we'd get there eventually, and Tommy got us there. You've got a new round coming, potentially, that the president and his staff have worked on to get beyond what the U.S. Supreme Court did. It sounds like, from what Tommy's saying, you may need those more immediately, particularly given the situation that's going on
a national security basis, which is the reason that he implemented those tariffs in the first place. Liberation Day, April of 2025. Fast forward to now. The steel and aluminum tariffs, by the way, are still in place. That's a separate issue than what the Supreme Court ruled on, and that is a big piece of it. Those are sectoral. Yes, like and Canada, that's why you've seen more and more auto manufacturing that is coming back into the United States. Again, is this a safety concern? Because before, the parts were going back. They were going from Canada to the U.S. down to Mexico and then back. Sometimes these components were going back and forth to Mexico. A lot of that is ending, and a lot of the automakers had expressed concerns for the safety of their employees in Mexico. The U.S. government has, not only do you have this designation of a terrorist organization with Jalisco, but you also have them giving us a price tag on the cartel industry as it exists right now in Mexico. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry on an annual basis, because they're not just into fentanyl and into meth and cocaine and human trafficking. They're also, they steal oil from Pemex and then they sell it. They have extortion operations around the country, the different groups of the cartel do, where they extort the avocado farmers. They extort small businesses, nightclubs. It is an unbelievable. So even though the border has been effectively shut down, even though the fentanyl, to your point, production has really slowed down, in particular in the southern part, like in the Sonoran region, we've seen that. Still, this is not exactly a moment in time where the cartels are going to say, oh, we're just going to walk away from the billions of dollars. And by the way, they have crypto trading operations as well. It is so much more than what Americans, I think, understand.
Yeah, you know, Emily, as we look at these pictures from there and all the videos over the weekend, it's terrifying.
It is. Thank you for pointing out, too, the vast enterprise network that the cartels have been engaging in for decades. They are loath to and will not surrender $1 of that multi-billion-dollar illicit revenue that they've been getting for years at all. And they've been exploiting the northern border through our northern neighbors who don't have the same drug trafficking and human trafficking and illicit types of data statistics and tracking that we do here in the States. The green gold of the avocado farms, the oil seizures, those cartels have that entire country and its economics and ecosystem under a tight fist. And I'm worried that the news cycle covers this as Americans are in the danger that they are, but that it will go back to the thin veneer of safety that we've been enjoying as tourists for decades. We know that power vacuums beget violence and exploitation, and that's what's been happening this entire time. That's why there are those multiple factions, because back in the day, it used to just be one. Now Jalisco's on top, right? It didn't used to be like that, but this is what shifts. The last Mexican elections were the bloodiest of all time, and the amount of journalists that have been murdered, the amount of influencers on live streaming, the amount of targeted, what's the word I'm looking for, when the cartels are recruiting young people there. It starts at a very young age. They hold their families hostage. They have now music and pop culture influences for these kids. It is a reign of terror. And to think, by the way, that the government is somehow distinct from the cartels is a very naive and foolish way of thinking. They are deeply embedded, and I'm not quite sure what our next steps are diplomatically, but it requires a very complex and nuanced approach to this country and to those cartels. I think that takes years of investments. This is not just a current administration diplomatic solution.
It's such a great point. I was just playing for Emily in the green room before he came out the narco ballad for men show. It's called Soy Men Show. It's like a popular song. They start young and influence it. I would just add to, we don't know what's going to happen next. I think one thing that may help tamp the violence down is that President Sheinbaum has a lot of pressure to get this under control before the FIFA World Cup. Because the Mexican people love soccer. And if this continues, there will be questions about whether you can hold those World Cup matches down there. And so she's got a tight timeline.
Yeah. On my very short walk from one set to the other, to this one, a few minutes ago, we learned that there were 25 members of the Mexican army that responded and took out El Mencho, excuse me. And that's a high number if you consider that they're going in to get somebody and they take that kind of damage and harm to themselves. So Sheinbaum, I just have a question. They knew that we were going to help them. They knew what the plan was, and still, you've got a situation that is very explosive right now. Can she handle what's going on now across a lot of the country?
Well, in 25 guard members that were announced, it was made by the Mexico's Secretary of Security. His name is Omar Garcia Harfuch. He was, El Mencho tried to kill him in 2020, failed. He's now the top Homeland Security person, if you will. So there's a lot of motivation to revenge those 25 guard members that were killed.
May I say, just a plug, if you're interested in this, you want to learn more than we have in this time here, listen to the podcast Borderland with Katarina Schultz. She has been on the ground there covering this for years. I trust her explicitly, and she frankly has been digging up all of those horrific details that make us uncomfortable, but that are so necessary for us to know.
Or what we call the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.